2 years ago in Benidorm, Spain, the great Italian rider Gianni Bugno became only the 4th man in history to successfully defend his professional world cycling crown on the road. He sprinted ahead of a group of riders. Miguel Indurain was only 6th. 1 year ago in Oslo, Norway, on a cold, wet Sunday, the American Lance Armstrong warmed the heart of America by becoming only the 2nd American ever to win the World Professional Road Racing crown. He ended his first full season as a professional with 2nd in the Tour du Pont, 3rd in the Tour of Sweden, $1 million in the United States, the US Championship and the world title and the stage win in the Tour de France. What a year. So we come to 1994 now, and the start in Agrigento, Sicily. 170 starters from 28 nations, the Americans leading off, with Armstrong now defending that championship. And what a course it is too. 19 laps of a 13.25 kilometre circuit. The high spot on the start and finishing line, they climb to 245 metres, and it is a 4 kilometre climb with a slight levelling just before the finish every lap. And as we watch the field roll away here on this opening lap, one rider has gone clear, and he is the young Colombian rider Raul Montana, a new professional rider. And the worst fears of the riders realised. It's already 90 degrees Fahrenheit with the temperatures tipped to reach 100. And this is Raul Montana. His lead has now gone up quite dramatically, actually. But now as we come round to the end of lap number 10, Montana, who had a maximum lead of 4 minutes and 15 seconds, has been swept up by the field. And more or less, he came back to them. He simply cracked. And the rider going away now is his Colombian teammate here, Luis Espinosa. So he's trying to carry on what Montana has done for 110 kilometres. And 20 minutes 34 seconds. Well, the first lap was the quickest when Montana went clear so far. That was 18 minutes and 35 seconds. A very quick lap indeed. Nothing else has gone inside 19 minutes. Over 3.5 hours now, so they're reckoning another 3 hours in the saddle. 9 laps to go. And here is our first chance to see Luis Espinosa. Well, the Colombians have come here to distinguish themselves, perhaps because the world title will be in Colombia next year. But my goodness me, even if they may like the hot weather, this is severely hot today. And now we've got the Swiss rider down there being trailed by another one of the Spanish riders. The Spanish rider has been quite active today as well. And that is Fabian Jecker of Switzerland. And alongside him there is Francesco Cabello. Well, Cabello, in fact, was a winner of the stage in England of the Tour de France this year when it came down into Brighton. They're trying to get across now, but the bunch have reacted very, very quickly, and Espinosa not getting away now. Small little group getting off. 3, 6, 8 riders trying to split from the field. The first really big flurry of activity. We saw a small group break clear to try and get down, catch Montana briefly, but the field have been very, very vigilant indeed. And the stars, I think, are waiting to play their cards in the last 2 hours of this race, because it is a very exposed course, as you can see, and judging by the parched terrain here in Sicily, every indication that the sun is going to burn just as hot as it does every day. What a nice picture that is, though. long, thin line of a very angry field now as the World Championship enters the most crucial phase. Montana, by the way, has retired almost immediately after being caught. He lasted about another 15 kilometers. And I think Espinosa is realizing too that his escape is not going to have any effect on these riders. They're just monitoring his progress. They've always got him where they want him. Rides for the Spanish Artiac team. Next year, of course, the World Championships will have moved into October. That might provide us with a very different race. This is Ralph Yerman trying to get across on the climb. First chance to have a look at the climb. Loosely translated, it literally is called the Road to Victory and reaches the finishing line on the top. But the field have been content to keep the tempo and keep control of everybody. Pedro Delgado of Spain at the head of the field, riding his last World Championship. And Espinosa, I think, is going to have company very, very soon indeed. Ralph Yerman looking over his shoulder now. But the field are coming back together, and in fact an immediate counter-attack here. It looks like Lee Sherwin from Australia ending his first full season, but sadly rumours are not holding his contract in Europe next year. 8 laps to go now. Another quick lap, 20 minutes and 18 seconds. Now the field is all together. And now we're going to see a very different race. That looked like Richard Virenque trying to get up. Just one rider dangling off the front. I don't think it's Espinosa. I think we've just caught him. Richard Virenque now, well, what a different rider he's become this year. In fact, it is still Espinosa. So Espinosa just hanging on. Well, not anymore. Swept away by a very active Richard Virenque of France. And now the Italians are putting in an appearance. This is David Cassani. And number 8 is Giovanni Farazin. Farazin also having a great season. Well, the Italians are going to want to do well here. They've waited now, but now they feel it's time for a change. They've allowed 2 Colombians to dictate this race so far, but now just look at the number of blue jerseys in that lead group. There's a slight split in the pack. Sign of tired legs as they come up towards the end of the lap. And very fast rhythm indeed, and a good lap time. Look at that, 19 minutes and 16 seconds now. That's a fast lap. And Cassani takes them through as they complete lap number 12. 7 laps to go. 7 times 13 kilometers, and that'll bring them up to the full distance of 252 kilometers. Massimo Girotto takes a look across at who's setting the pace now. They're starting to try and work out who are the strong men as we head in towards the high afternoon sun. Temperatures now are 96 degrees Fahrenheit. And Massimo Girotto looking around, seeing who's going to help. And it seems to be the French are marking the Italians very, very closely here. This is Massimo Padenzana. For the last 2 years, the champion of Italy. So they're all putting the weight in behind the attack now. The tactic is keep the pace high and see what happens. The Italians are very, very good at this. They're reported to be on a massive bonus if they provide the winner on the team. Some in the region of about $300,000 they'll share. Well, it's not so long ago when the Dutch dominated the world road race, the days of Jan Roos and Jerry Knetman. And in fact, used to see the orange jerseys rather of Holland bashing it out at the front like this. But these last few years, it's been all Italy. Ever since Gianni Bugno won the Milan-San Remo in a record average speed, then went on to absolutely eclipse the Tour of Italy field, which took him to the world #1 ranking position. Bugno a non-starter today, by the way. And they forced a split, the Italians. But that peloton by far from giving up, forming its traditional arrowhead as they try to hold that breakaway. Gianluca Bortolami, what an amazing turnabout his season's having. He's really now a very, very serious challenger for the World Cup after his win in the Leeds Classic and indeed 6th in San Sebastian and also winning the Championship of Zurich. Once a great domestique and now he's heading up to be a leader. He's in that little breakaway. 250 there. That's Antonio Gonzalez of Spain. Steve Barr of Canada here, tapping out the rhythm. Robert Miller on the far side for the British team, riding for TVM, of course. An attack by Pedro Delgado, who says goodbye to world-class racing this year. Hangs up his wheels. He's been a marvellous cyclist. Winner of the Tour de France in 1988. Tour of Spain victories as well. He'll be sadly missed, Pedro Delgado, Perico. But a lot of big names are leaving the sport this year. Phil Anderson expected to retire as well from Australia. Greg LeMond seems as though he's teetering on the brink of retirement. Well, I suppose it's all right if you're a spectator, but for the riders now, this hill is becoming a real mountain. A very difficult climb indeed. And still, the Spanish riders trying to launch the little pace at the front. And this rider up here now is still Gonzalez. In fact, he swapped places with Delgado. Delgado went back into the field. Gonzalez is holding his own at the front now. And that's Scott Sunderland of Australia who's up there on the right of our picture. The Germans have come across. Could well be Rolf Aldag setting the pace. And just behind him, Claudio Chipucci, taking a little bit of a turn for the better now with some of the big names coming up. 6 laps to go and they've got a split on the field. Now that small little group. Again, it's been forced on the climb. This is Gonzalez. The Spanish have been very active today. The Spanish speakers indeed. Let's not forget Colombia. Now Gonzalez will be very pleased if he takes a look over his shoulder, because he can't expect to win the world title on a break at this stage on his own. But if he can get this group across to him, then it might be a different championship. That's why he's looking over, seeing what's coming, and that group is coming up. He spotted it. Now he's going to relax a little bit, let them come up, rest while he can, and see just who is in this group. Well, this is quite a significant group. There's Claudio Chipucci there. Ralph Aldag is here. Scott Sunderland, vastly underrated rider. Very, very upset that TVM didn't name him in the Tour de France team this year. And I think with some reason, but then unfortunately he's Australian and not Dutch. Rolf Aldag at the front of that group. There's a nice picture for you, as long as you don't fall off. Not a lot of reaction coming from the field. Now they're sort of forming their own opinions of what's in that breakaway. Just seeing who's prepared to take up the chase. The French have got riders up there, the Italians have. So that's why the Dutch are going to have to do something about it. Not surprisingly, I think that's Martin Den Bakker who's at the head there. There's Sunderland. Aldag unloading his pockets a bit early on. Richard Virenque is here. Claudio Chipucci went out of the Tour de France with a high temperature. And that's Virenque actually shouting at Chipucci to keep the gaps closed. Also in this group, number 106 there. And that is Udo Boltz, another German rider. So we've got Aldag and Boltz. This is Aldag. Long legs of Rolf Aldag. Very good finisher though. Boltz is more the rider for the win. He's had a marvellous Tour de France. In fact, this year he's had a great season. And Chipucci always gets in the moves. Now this is the Mike Engelman here, trying to bring Lance Armstrong, I would suspect, back into the action and drag them through a bit, because Armstrong is going to have to get up there sooner or later. Ronan Pensek is on the left, and Pensek being left to go through over Mike Engelman. The French have got 3 riders in that chase group. And the benefit of the helicopter, seeing that this group is getting away a little bit now. Udo Boltz, Richard Virenque, Scott Sunderland. And that's rather a cruel picture for the riders in these conditions, I would suggest. And this is a very useful carrot now. There's the first time check, 30 seconds. And it was all started by that rider there, Arsenio Gonzalez. think the Dutch rider who's got up here is Eric Breukink.
Gonzalez there on the wheel of Aldag. And now, is there going to be some reaction here? That was, I think it was Vyacheslav Bobrik who was waving his arms around. And this is a chase behind, I think, one or two riders in the pack. They've had a crash here, and one of the falls has been Bortolami, and I think the other one was Farazin. And so that's who they are, trying to get back into the action. They've been left behind a little bit, but they're coming through well. That's Bortolami, and the other rider is Gianni Farazin. So these two riders back through the convoy, trying to rejoin the field as fast as they can. Well, they were almost at the head of affairs when they went down, but they were off our camera. We never saw them go. We charge now through the Valley of the Temples. The steepest point comes in the last kilometre of this climb. It's around about 13%. And then you have about 300 metres of flat and semi-flat that takes you right up to the finish line itself. So it's not entirely a sprinter's race, this. It's a strong man's race. If you can make your move early and then hang on to the end. Sunderland. Gonzalez. Riding very, very well indeed. And there's Bobrik coming up now. Vyacheslav Bobrik. Figured first we heard of him was in the Tour de Pont, in fact the Tour de Trump in those days, 1989, as a young member of the Russian, or the Soviet team as it was then. He led the race for a while before he met his, he got cooked in the Devil's Kitchen, I seem to remember, in the Catskill Mountains. And Raul Alcala went on to the victory. Raul Alcala, one of the noted non-starters today, and that's another rider who'll be hanging up his wheels at the end of this season. Another personality gone from the field. Here's Bobrik. Great friend of Evgeny Berzan. They moved together when they turned pro, and of course Berzan this year has won in great style the Tour of Italy, but since then has not really had the form. Well, Farazin and Bortolami are almost on the tail of that peloton now, we hear. And we're on the climb itself. And this is Bobrik. Well, the peloton are right up behind that breakaway now, rather sadly, because they've picked up all the lead cars. Martin Brun there from Holland, the chief commissaire, trying to get things sorted out and get all of these motorbikes out of the way, because they're going to close in very rapidly now. We're going to see a regrouping here, I think. Now, this is the head of affairs at the front. And this rider here looks like Peter Ugramov. And it is indeed. Ugramov, followed by number 10, Thurlin, winner of Milan San Remo. And a very good season he's having as well. The Italians have got so much strength now. Number 99, Richard Virenque. So there's been a general regrouping on the climb, but it's already cracking again as we approach the 5-hour mark. Scott Sunderland still there at the head, keeping the tempo nice at 5 laps to go. 19:27, that's a very quick lap. And it looks to me as though Armstrong's going across in that little group. Lance Armstrong, the defending champion. The field has split this time. Up on the 5th climb, 5 laps to go rather, the field has gone. Kea Pucci's trapped in what is appearing to be the 3rd group now, and at the back of it at that, as Ugramov, the champion of that final week of the Tour de France this year, when he really did take on Miguel Indurain. Took a little bit of time out of him, although you have to feel that Miguel let him take it at times without using too much energy. But even so, he finished 2nd overall, and this is now Francisco Casagrande, another Italian having a dig. On the descent through Agrigento and away from the finishing line. Casagrande, not a great winner, won a small race this year, the Grand Prix of the Industry.
but he is an excellent rider and one that everybody wants on their team. A really strong rider, number 4. One day he's going to win a big event, I'm quite sure of that, Casagrande, if he gets his chance. Well, Ugramov is feeling that it's time to try and break up this race. Everybody's paying a little bit too much attention because they're continually closing the gap. Sooner or later, the elastic must snap. There's Armstrong slipping back down the line, having a check out. This is Udo Boltz doing likewise. Podenzana goes through. Second year, the champion of Italy, but that seems to be the only thing he ever does, is win the championship of Italy. He's not a great performer in races away from his home country, but he certainly puts up the odd good performance. Now Richard Virenque, Claudio Chipucci, and that was a quick shot of Dmitry Konishev. This is Bobrick playing a big part again, and David Cassani. Cassani is one of those solid riders. I remember him leading in the King of the Mountains in the Tour de France a couple of years back, and he was laughing because he doesn't see himself as a climber, but he is certainly a very aggressive rider. Been a pro since 1982, I think. It's 12 years as a professional. Now, there's no real pattern forming yet, except the strength of the Italians is clearly noted. And Richard Virenque of France consistently up in the moves as well. And there's the chance to see Armstrong now. Eric Breukink goes through as well. Pyotr Ugramov. Now, any one of these names would be worthy of a world championship. And there's Bjorn Riis from Denmark, also up here now. Laurent Madois, Maurizio Fondriest. Now, these riders have all come. Fondriest has refound his form after his operation at the start of the season, which kept him out of the Tour de France and Tour of Italy. He made his comeback in the Tour of Great Britain, and in fact he won that race, having won in the opening time trial. He scored again during the race in the next time trial, ran out the winner, and since then has been back on form. Whether he'll have the legs to go the distance, though. André Schmil, 271, World Cup leader, has won Paris-Roubaix this year, but he's struggling a bit in the World Cup now. I don't think he's going to make it. Well, it looks to be about 25 riders forming at the front. Another Italian up there is Bruno Cenghialta. This is the champion of Switzerland now, Felice Puttini. Not a big rider, but he's picked up the championship, and in fact he finished 17th in the World Championships last year. He may well have read the right move again too. And Cubino, 260, is the Spanish rider who's made this split. Scott Sunderland again in a move. Armstrong, inspired by his victory last year. The adrenaline still flowing perhaps, feeling that this is his jersey and he's not going to lose it lightly. He's read the move well so far. And this is Chipucci trying to get across. I think he's got Dmitry Konishev with him there. The rider's using the only slope on the course to repair or make good whatever they've got, gains or losses. Now just look at the boys in blue here, the Italians. Number 12 is Pantani, Marco Pantani. The find of the year. One of the nicest climbers I've ever seen in action, and his second and third places in the two big tours. This course really should suit him. It finishes on top of the hill. So the riders still in the breakaway, setting the pace nicely. And we've got, in fact, the chase being enacted now by this man here. And in fact, Claudio Chipucci has got Stefan Erlo of France going across with him. And look at the power as he goes up this climb. He's got the big ring on and he's trying very, very hard to close this gap quickly before that breakaway goes clear. Erlo is not going to help him because he knows he has a teammate up there, but so too does Kiapucci, who doesn't seem concerned about that fact. He's getting himself across. He won't see Erlo as a long-term danger man, I don't think, so he may feel it's worth the gamble. And there's another rider there in absolute no man's land as well. Kiapucci, that fine piece of riding for him. He's on the tail, and in fact somebody else has come up as well. Quite a little group has got across. They've caught Kiapucci on the climb. They've put in about 4 or 5 more riders up there now. Pace being set by Cenghialta. Now we have a large number of Italian jerseys in this lead group. Things are going according to plan, I would think. Cenghialta setting the pace. Gubigno, stage winner this year in the Tour of Italy. Surprisingly, it wasn't a particularly mountainous stage. Well, it was hilly, but it had a flat finish and he won it. He held on by the skin of his racing shorts. And this is Francisco Casagrande, Scott Sunderland. Almost in the camera there was Gubigno. And so the riders now looking to me as though they're starting to build themselves a little lead. There should be a lot of concern in the main field. The Germans have put a lot of riders up in the front of that chase. Here's Casagrande. Keeping himself in a nice rhythm on the climb. His job here is simply as a workhorse. They won't be counting on him to win the World Championship. Massimo Girotto is also up here. That's an interesting name. I've never spoken to Girotto, and I've seen him race just about everywhere in the world, and he's always done a performance sooner or later. Stage winner in the Tour de France in the past. I remember him winning in Geneva and at Buzinej, where Robert Miller went off course just before the finish line. He will come up with a result somewhere, always. But it's left to Casagrande to keep the pace going. Tenth this year in the Championship of Zurich. He was second overall in the Tour of the Mining Valleys. And Girotto, time for a shower. And time to do a bit of work, it seems. And there's still one more Italian rider here. He's still trying to get across. I haven't actually identified him, but he's down there and he's trying desperately to reach across the group. But it looks as though it might be, from what the commentator is saying, Gianni Farazin, who's trying to get across. And Scott Sunderland, so upset with his team this year because he's had moments of brilliance. As the pace now being led by Massimo Girotto. Bjorn Ries, number 73. Another man who has excelled these last couple of years, as has many riders from Denmark, in fact, and the popularity of the sport in Denmark now has gone through the roof. 35 seconds is the gap. It's not a lot, especially on this climb. Girotto continues his pace, stage winner this year in the Giro d'Italia. And in fact, he won the Tour of the Mining Valleys, which Casagrande was second in. And that was his first stage victory, by the way, in 12 years of cycling for Girotto, Massimo Girotto. Now, Bjorn Ries comes through and wants to see the finish. Erik Breukink coming up the climb here too. No, it's not Breukink, it's Erik Dekker. This is the second group up on the climb. Well, it's becoming something of a war of attrition here, because those that stick the nose out front seem to be hauled in on the climb each lap. This is the last kilometre of the climb now. They're just through the steepest part. And this is Bortolami trying to get in touch with them as well. He's had his ups and downs quite literally today, and it's Girotto setting the pace. The Italians are really trying to force this now. They will need to get a much smaller group, I think. They haven't really got any great sprinters. They've got riders who will wear the field down and possibly ride away to victory on this climb, and that may be what they're thinking. Men like Kiepucci could ride away on this climb, and Girotto's prepared to keep the pace high. Sunderland, Breukink, that's the orders to go through. There's Richard Virenque looking around rather quizzically. It's a big group this now. Bjorn Riis in the red for Denmark. There's Breukink, this is Sunderland. And Girotto has done a sterling ride up this climb. He really has. He's kept the pace so high. He's got a group of around 24 riders here. Coming through to the end of the lap. 5 hours and 13 minutes in the lead. Or rather, the race has gone for 5 hours and 13 minutes. And they're left now with 4 laps to go. And that was Stefan Erlo who's led them through, but I don't think he'll survive very long. 46 seconds and counting has gone through. Eric Decker bringing through a chase group. In fact, it's almost a minute. Johan Bruneel of Belgium is in this group. Bobrick. And in fact, Erlo is trying to make the best of his escape towards the top of that climb. He's really going hard here. The trouble is, you see, once you're off the hill, you've got this wide section of road with long views and visibility, and it's really difficult for a rider to slip the field. Erlo. And they're trying to finish him off very quickly. Well, the French seem to be offering the biggest challenge to the Italians as a team. They've got a number of riders up in this breakaway. How cycling fortunes switch, because the Dutch now really don't seem to be in this race at all. They've got Decker chasing, they've got Breukink in the group, and Breukink needs a good performance because the rumours are he's losing his contract with Once, the Spanish team. He hasn't turned out to be the big winner, which they paid the big money for. But Erlo is forcing the Italians to chase, and that will use effort. And so if nothing else, that will help, possibly later. Armstrong. As with all the Americans, as in the days of Greg LeMond, the Americans have to watch the moves and try and go with them because they have no team at this stage. They've all gone. A number have retired, 1 or 2 are still back in the main field. But they did their job early on to keep Lance up near the front. It's cost them their place or a possible finish, I think. But now they've done their job because they've got Armstrong into the lead group, and this lead group beginning to look rather decisive. And Armstrong still continuing to do some pacemaking. He's at the front of the chase. They're keeping Erlo in sight, but my goodness me, he's going well. Rides alongside Miguel Indurain on the Benesto squad. Indurain has always had a little bit of a penchant for employing French riders on his team. He speaks a little bit of French himself. He prefers to speak in Spanish, but he does speak French. And Bortolami in the breakaway takes a look at Bobrick. Well, it's taking a lot of effort here, and the Italians are having to do all of the work. But they're slowly reeling him in, and they've got him, and the rider first across is Bruno Cenghialta. Cenghialta continues. Sunderland takes a drink. And Stefan Erlo drops down the line a little bit. The pace continues. The The Italians, you see, want to keep the pace high. Casagrande is going back to give the leaders a workout there. Cenghialta for Fondriest is here. He's taking as much rest as he can down the back of the line. He may be one of their star cards. This is Cassani, little old David Cassani. He's won about 16, 17 races as a professional in those 12 years as a pro, but he's been a real good workhorse on many, many occasions. Won a stage in the Giro d'Italia last year. A little bit of repair on the move. And this will be for Dmitry Konishev. No, is it Bobrik? No, it's Konishev. Dmitry Konishev, who started to fly the flag for Russia and the Soviet Union when they turned professional. And he did it, of course, in the year that Greg LeMond picked up the gold medal. And Konishev just pipped Sean Kelly. And Sean Kelly always rused that day in 1989 in Chambéry because he feels that was the one chance he had of a world championship, because Kelly too is out of the sport at the end of this year and didn't start this race, by the way. And the gap is 1:38. A nice healthy start to the day. There's the champion of Switzerland, Puttini. This is Johan Brunel. He's in the chase group, and Decker. But just to conclude that little story there about Kelly, Kelly will always tell you he went out to see the course finish in Chambéry the day before. The wind was in a different direction, and he in fact chose to use a 13 top gear because he felt it would be a headwind sprint, and in fact the wind changed. It was a tailwind and it was a suitable sprint for a 12 top gear, and he was beaten by Greg LeMond. He never says that he would have beaten Greg LeMond to that World Championship, but he says he would have had a better chance of doing so. But he does feel that was the one time when the championship was there for the taking and he never got it. And Konishev came through good there. Konishev taking silver, and since then has won the stage in the Tour de France in Paris, apart from other stages as well. Comes up with the odd good performance. Now he's in this breakaway. Well, it's a little bit like a moonscape. As the riders are on the climb again, the Italians are continuing to set the pace. Nobody willing to help them. They know the pressure on the Italians. They know they've got to do a performance in their own country. But Tifosi will not be pleased if they don't win. And so the others aren't going to help them too much. Number 95 here is Laurent Madois. Well, this is a good ride by Laurent. There's the breakaway. There's a little chase group down there which contains Decker and Brunel and co. But that's a good lead now. If they can keep the pressure on and don't start cat and mousing around, the Italians and the French particularly, and then I don't think anybody will get up here. Francisco Casagrande looking quite casual on the climb. Laurent Madois just behind him. Castorama rider Cyril Guimard has a lot of time for Madois. He reckons he's a real talent. And the French marking well. Richard Virenque is also in this breakaway, and he's just behind Casagrande. There he is. Brilliant Tour de France for Virenque, finishing with the King of the Mountains jersey on his shoulders and that memorable stage win at Les Ardennes. Well, I can only imagine Casagrande is the throwaway card, and he's sent up here to set the pace, and Armstrong does well just to ride in fourth place. Keep an eye on things. Udo Boltz goes through there. Puttini, Cassani is up here. This is an amazing breakaway group. Cenghialta has gone through. I think there are 7 Italians now in this group, and I think we've got 5 Frenchmen. There's Luc Leblanc. Who rode so well to win the stage to Hautecam in the Tour de France when he was the only man to hold on to the fiery wheels of Miguel Indurain on that climb in the Pyrenees, and then he rode away from Miguel in the last few metres. Girotto, Chiappucci. So Chiappucci and Fondriest are probably the key cards for Italy. They're not doing any work, they're riding down the line. Jan Ries, a very strong man, sort of man who would try to go alone, given half a chance. Sorensen is also up here, Rolf Sorensen, his teammate, also a man who likes to go for gold early on. This is the chase group trying to get across. Still a lot of work to be done here. Eric Decker shot to the fore with his medal in the Olympic Games. Second year pro now, so we expect to see something from him next year perhaps. These are the leaders back on the climb. 3 French riders have got the front of the field. Well, the French aren't going to be overawed by the Italians on home soil, that's for sure. You can tell a climber. Look at the face of Virenque in the centre, looking around. Very passive face indeed. He's certainly not a man under pressure at this point. Stéphane Hurlot has had a very, very good championship for France. Hurlot. There's Armstrong, riding so well. In defensive is well crowned. It's not been a great season for Armstrong, but he's certainly risen to the occasion here. He rode to the occasion in Liège-Bastogne-Liège as well, where with a little bit more luck he would have won. But Armstrong going to have to now think of bigger fish to fry here in the World Championship. He finally got home in second place in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, outwitted by a late attack. Just look at the crowd here now on this Sicilian island. There's Fondriest. He looks to me as though he's a little bit under pressure, Fondriest. Giorgio Furlan, who got across, is alongside him. In fact, there's a number of Italians found the back seat, and keeping an eye on them all there, I think, was Luc Leblanc. And there's Sorensen, keeping his gears nicely down low if he can. His family have a house, by the way, on top of Morzine-Avoriaz, that wonderful climb in the Alps that the Tour de France visited this year and occasionally goes there. So if he ever needs to get any mountain training in, he only has to go to stay in the apartment, and off he goes. Virenque looks around, sees what's going on. Time for a drink for Stéphane Hurlot. 3 laps to go, almost 6 hours now. Another good time, 20:33. They're averaging out now, round about 20:30. Here's the chase group, but they're not really getting across. 1:23, and Decker's disappeared from that group. In fact, I think he's down amongst the cars. There he is. I really can't see this group being brought back. Girotto sitting on the wheel of Casagrande. Eric Breukink. And number 95 is Laurent Madois. Breukink rather desperate for a good performance. It's not been a great year at all for Eric. And Casagrande looks across to Girotto. I think he wants a little bit of a hand. Time for a rest. And Girotto having a word with him there. Now, it's not often we get a chance to fly above one of our own helicopters, but there we are. The other helicopter almost at road level, with a very disjointed group down there. Rolf Aldag, the sprinter. Casagrande always willing to keep the pace going. Claudio Chiappucci, you never know what that man is going to do, and that's why we love him. He's as apt to attack on the flat as on the hills. Casagrande just drops back a little bit. Makes way for Dmitry Konishev. Always should be concerned about Konishev, but there are some really good names in this breakaway now, and because the Italians are so well represented and the French, every reason why the rest of the race may not get back up. World Championships, by the way, they all began in 1927, and in fact Scott Sunderland is calling for his service car here. Well, let's hope. I don't see his tyres going down, so it may just be for a chat, because remember that this is the only time in the year when they don't race on teams, they race for their country. So he will be talking, rather than to Case Preem, his team manager, he would talk to the Australian team manager, which could well be Heiko Salzwiedel, the former East German coach, who now resides in Australia as the national trainer. Salzwiedel trained the East German team that won the gold medals in the 1988 Olympic team time trial. Now he's getting a lot of success out of the Australian amateurs. They've just cleaned up in the medals in the Commonwealth Games in Canada before travelling down to Sicily, some of them, and now we've got another Italian deciding it's time to warm the day up even hotter. It's now around about 98 degrees Fahrenheit. Erlo very attentive, so the French clearly marking the Italians at every move, and the German, I think it's Aldag, trying to get across just off our camera there. So we've pulled a group of 6 clear. Now time to shuffle the pack again, and it's gone on the flat roads, which is interesting to note. Try and make a run for the mountain. The guy who's done it is Bruno Cenghialta. There's the little chat is over for Scott Sunderland. Not a good time to do it, Scott, because that breakaway is split at the front. Armstrong riding 4 or 5 men down, just watching the moves. That's all he can do at this stage. He's nobody here to help him. Same applies to Eric Breukink in the orange. Cassani looking over his shoulder. And Rolf Sorensen seems to be shouting back at his team car or the commissaire or something. I'm not sure whether he's complaining about the proximity of the cars, because he is in fact shouting to the commissaire. Oh, I see. He wants his manager. He wants to know what's going on behind. Well, now he knows, and it's about a minute and a half, Rolf. Bjorn Ries at the front, followed by Aldag, Girotto. A lot of movement now with the following vehicles, and I think this is an indication that people are realising this is the breakaway that will decide the World Championship. And the Italians are the ones who are saying, well, if it is, we're going to win it. An attack immediately by Cenghialta. Immediately countered there, and it's Armand de las Cuevas. He came onto the back of the group early on. We haven't seen him do anything until now, and de las Cuevas has gone off. He's having his best season ever, de las Cuevas. This is the champion of Switzerland, Puttini. Cenghialta looking across to see what the attack did and realising maybe nothing. Puttini has gone through him. There he is. And Cenghialta hangs on. I think on this occasion it's going to be all back together again, and in fact Cenghialta shouting at Puttini, who will understand him because they speak Italian as parts of Switzerland, and in fact Puttini rides on an Italian team as well, a small one. And now Sorensen going. This is the sort of move that Sorensen would make. Rolf Sorensen always would expect to do it alone if he's going to do it at all, and so the tall Danish rider tarnished his reputation a little bit in the eyes of the British, at least, when he pulled the jersey of the Motorola rider Sean Yates when he was in the yellow jersey during a sprint for a valuable 6-second time bonus in the Tour de France this year. And in fact, by the end of the day, Museo was leading by, guess what, 6 seconds. And although Sean Yates normally would not beat Museo, it wasn't the thing to do, and Sorensen hasn't been allowed to forget that yet. Anyway, Sorensen now clear. Cassani has got him. Rolf's father, Jens, rode in the Olympic Games back in 1960, while Rolf took the plunge as a pro at the early age of 20. Well, he's a bit older than that now. He's just 29. Well, Puttini seems to be a man for big titles. He's got the national championship. He rode well in the Worlds last year, 17th. He's going again, trying to get across to these leaders. We've got 4 riders now. Cassani, Erik Breukink, Rolf Sorensen and Stefan Oehlo. Nice group, and you see Breukink, who's also what they call a stayer, a rider that can go out there. Is saw in Sorensen the sort of man he would like to go with, and immediately marked Sorensen and went. This is Puttini. Cassani sitting at the back, and I don't think he'll help the company here. Cassani's not meant to be up here other than as a policeman to watch the breakaway. There's the great little Swiss rider, Puttini. No wins at all this year. Breukink prepared now to do quite a slice of the work. In fact, it's Virenque, it's not Oehlo in this leading group. Richard Virenque, who's enjoyed his career so far, the last couple of years, since he did so well in the Tour de France. He repeated that feat in this year's Tour de France. Once you get a couple of good performances under your belt, you begin to believe in yourself. And once you believe in yourself, anything is possible. And there you get a nice perspective of the climb. It really is a tough climb. Steepest part just up to the right of our picture there. And a good time being had down at the barbecue with the Italians. There's the rest of the breakaway. The main field is dropping out of it now. They're falling right behind, 3 minutes down. Just the lone figure of Puttini chasing, trying to get across to these 4, but he's not coming across yet. Any reaction will come on the steep part of the climb as Sorensen goes through, Virenque, Cassani and Erik Breukink. And in fact, no, I was about to say Cassani was going to go through, but in fact he let the door open and allowed Breukink in. And Breukink didn't say anything to Cassani there. He accepts that the fact is that Cassani is not the Italian expected to land the goods here. And so he's going to sit at the back and hope that this breakaway gets caught. There's a more likely candidate in number 6, Kipucci. Or Giorgio Furlan perhaps, number 10 at the back also. Cubino, done nothing yet, sat at the back for Spain. Armstrong sitting there nicely and watching, hoping without doubt that this breakaway gets caught very shortly. Lance Armstrong, second in the Tour du Pont again in America this year. Beaten by another man from Word Perfect, but it wasn't Raul Alcala this time, it was in fact Vyacheslav Yekimov. Now let's see if there's any difference. It doesn't look to me as though there's much. Those 4 riders have kept the tempo nicely on the climb. The Italians, you note, are setting the pace in the chase group as well. And around about 22 riders in this group. Sorensen, who looks as though he's got a few air holes in his jersey there. Cassani just allowing Rolf to do the gap closing. Good stage win for Rolf in the Tour de France this year. The only trouble was he beat Neil Stevens, who I think everybody would have liked to have seen finally get a stage win in the big Tour, because he's always been an aggressive rider, but he rarely gets a victory. But Steve was no match for Sorensen in the sprint at Montpellier. The motorbike taking the corner the rider should have had just there. Sorensen goes through, Breukink, and now we've got Puttini latched on at the back. He's got across, and a fine piece of riding too. It took him a while, but the effort was worth it. Now we've got 5. Now we've got 5, and in fact the Italians are going to be in a little bit of a quandary here, because Cassani will not win from that group. Breukink, Sorensen, Virenque must be seen as the riders who could do something here. But Cassani is a super little rider. dancing away on the pedals there, second from the back. Puccini still trying to get his breath back. First year as a pro, Cassani rode the Giro d'Italia, finished 40th overall, but he didn't win a race until his second year as a pro. In fact, in his first 5 years as a professional, he won only 2 races. He's had the last couple of years been good to him though. Best season 91, when he won 7 times, including a stage in the Giro and finishing 9th in the World Championship. And 9th is his best finish in a World Champion. No, I beg your pardon, he finished 7th, I think, back in 1988. So he's had a 7th and a 9th. Virenque loves the climbs now. After all, if you say you've won the King of the Mountains in the Tour de France, you will believe you are a climber. And although this is a very different hill to the High Pyrenees or High Alps, it calls for a very different type of effort. Virenque is an explosive climber. Doesn't just sit there and bash out the rhythm, he dances out the saddle as much as possible. He wants Breukink to come through, I think. I think Eric is happy to hang on just now. Sorensen, a gap forming to Puccini. He hasn't recovered from bridging the gap on the climb. And neither's Cassani. Cassani's in big trouble now. That's why I don't see him as the man, because he can't survive on this climb. And the reaction is coming, and it's Massimo Girotto and Lance Armstrong who are going. Armstrong deciding now might be the time to reach those leaders. It could be going for keeps. Up towards the summit yet again. 5 hours and 54 minutes gone. Little group coming through. The clock will start on the line as Sorensen leads them through. Breukink, Virenque. Virenque is the rider now setting the pace here. 5 riders and the chase group. Here comes Lance Armstrong, Girotto. So just about 26 kilometers now left to go. And that is 16 miles or so. And it's 9 seconds the gap. It's nothing now. They've really closed in those last few meters of the climb on the steep section. Sunderland was the rider hanging on at the back. So it certainly hasn't gone yet, this breakaway, despite the work. Puccini has read so far the move, but can he continue? And you can probably hear the announcer saying there are 5 riders chasing now, so they've just got away off the front of that group. One of them must be Lance Armstrong, and we know the other one is Girotto. Oh, and talk of Lance Armstrong, there he is. Armstrong has come through, and the other rider coming through is Konishev, Girotto, Claudio Chiappucci. And the 5th man to make the gap, it looks like Luc Leblanc. So 10 riders now, inside 2 laps to go. The Italians have strengthened their men at the front, and they've brought across a real star in Claudio Chiappucci. Luc Leblanc, who's riding a tremendous season this year. Another rider who turned professional at 20 years of age, by the way, Luc Leblanc. Turned pro back in 1987. And then he moved across and joined Cyril Guimard in 1990, where he won 4 races. But this year he's ridden for the Festina team with distinction, as indeed as Richard Virenque. They've gone everywhere together, it seems. They had a great Tour de France together. Now they're in what's looking very much the decisive move in the World Championships together. Sorensen seeing who's joined the field. Cassani now has the wink from Chiappucci to go through and do some work. Konishev behind Eric Breukink. Lance Armstrong. Well, he's riding a brilliant World Championships in defence of his title. He hasn't had a brilliant season, but you couldn't expect Lance to match the year he had just 1 year ago, his first full year as a pro. This is only his 2nd full year as a pro, and you've got to give him time to settle in. He's set himself such high targets, and my goodness me, he's won some big races already, of course. So you've got that small chase group. This is Sorensen leading the 10 front runners. Blue skies, and we are now tickling the 100 degrees Fahrenheit here. This is Bortolami, but he's not in the lead group anymore. He's going to have to do something about that if he wants to continue his fine progress, but I think he'll be handicapped now because he's got his men up there. Johan Brunel. This is the group containing Brunel, Andrei Schmil, Vyacheslav Bobrik and Bortolami. There's Schmil on the far side, lovely winner of Paris-Roubaix this year. Eric Decker is in this group too, but they're not going to get up, I don't think. I don't think they can bridge the gap now. Bortolami keeping the tempo high to keep him in the position he is in, but he can't really damage now his teammates who have made the move. And this is saying now that Girotto, Sorensen and Madouas are the latest attackers from that group of 10. So they've gone clear while we were looking at that chase group. Well, Sorensen, for me, is the big danger. Madouas is having the ride of his life. Absolutely tremendous ride for this young pro. Girotto, you just never know. He's a lone win expert, the same... And what's happened to Madouas? Madouas has dropped completely off on the climb, and it looks as though he's stopping. In fact, his hand's up. He has a mechanical problem. It looked to me as though his gears had jammed the way his pedals locked up there. Well, that is really, really bad luck. What he's going to do now is tell the French in the chase group that they better start working again now because they've lost their man up front. Well, that really... And they're getting a bike off, are they, for him? No, a wheel, back wheel. Well, that is a terrible... No, it is a new bike. A terrible, terrible shame indeed for Laurent Madouas because he has had the ride of his life today, and it's one of those inspired performances you hope you do get as a new pro. So it leaves Girotto and Rolf Sorensen as they head up the climb for the penultimate time. Bell awaits them on the summit. Girotto just giving the wink to Sorensen to keep up with him. But Girotto prepared to work with Sorensen and may have been given his head to take his chance by the team. And this is Armstrong going to go across. Lance Armstrong. He will have seen Madouas in trouble. Well, Armstrong is riding superbly today. He is going whenever he can. He's shed... Oh, well, I was about to say he'd shed the fear, but somebody's climbed across to him. Girotto, just sitting there. He looks a lot younger with his hat on because, of course, he has no hair when he takes it off. And Sorensen, and I think Sorensen actually said something then to Girotto. And that's the return of Madouas there, or trying to be the return of Madouas. But I don't think Laurent is going to have a chance to repair that damage. He lost a lot of time. He was passed by the main field as well, and there's the main field now. Armstrong has been joined. It could be a useful breakaway. Konishev has got up here too. And this rider with them is Luc Leblanc. And Claudio Chiappucci is the other rider who has got across the gap. This move is taking on a move of reality again, and Armstrong may have started it. Well, he certainly did start it. It's a chase group, though. They've got to catch up to the leaders. There are 2 leaders up there. We could have 6 very shortly. Meanwhile, back down the slopes, Bortolami, Bobrik. They're really out of it now. I think our Italian cameras are only going down there to remind us where Bortolami is, but they're nowhere near the leaders now. This is the leader, Girotto. They were looking up the mountain as they were climbing. They might have even spotted these two. Another move from a Frenchman trying to get across the gap. Casagrande. Oh, he also is trying to repair the damage of the split here. The field is blown on this climb. They've scrabbled for wheels. There was once about 25 of them, but they've been scrabbling now on the climb. Sorensen has started the move. Girotto was there too. He did well. He got across. Armstrong had a move with Girotto, which he never took up. And there are the 4 chasers. Lance Armstrong, Claudio Chiappucci, Dmitry Konishev, Luc Leblanc. And they're bringing them back. They're going to have them by the top of the climb because Chiappucci is such a good climber. And there's no fire there in Massimo Girotto. And I think Rolf Sorensen is also feeling a little bit tired because he's not going through. And Luc Leblanc is the first to reach them. A very familiar climbing pattern of Leblanc. We had plenty of chance to learn that one in the Tour de France this year. And Leblanc goes to the lead. He's reached them on his own too. He must have ridden away from that group. So Leblanc climbing towards the summit with a small lead with two other riders, and they will take the bell this lap. Then it's descent round the flats and back up the hill, and the world champion will be crowned. Kea Pucci having set the pace now. Armstrong, little gap there, but Armstrong hanging in. Konishev, and it's Richard Virenque who's got on the back now. And there you can see the crowd, the graffiti, and now the leader on the road, Luc Leblanc. This is the toughest part, and I think Rolf Sorensen has just realised it because he's fallen away. And this is his teammate here, Bjorn Ries. They're now trying to get in a small group with Madouas. And in fact, the man setting the pace is Lordolino Cubino of Spain. Well, he's the best suited to the climb, and this is his big effort now. He's made the breakaway. He's now going to try and repair the damage and reach the leaders. Well, time running out. The next time up this climb, of course, it'll be for the gold medal. And I don't know if he's going to do it. This is back up at the front here. And we've got Leblanc, Massimo Girotto and Sorensen coming back. He lost a lot on the climb, but he's gritting his teeth and he's going to get back. So one lap to go. Just 13.25 kilometers to go. And Kea Pucci not far off the pace at 15 seconds. So around about 7.5 miles still to race. The world champion now going to come from this group of round about 15 riders. And in fact, Claudio Kea Pucci is starting to go again. And Armstrong gets his wheel. Brilliant riding by Lance Armstrong. And prepared to work with him as well. Now, can Lance Armstrong spring a surprise here and defend his championship and become only the 5th man in history to do so? Going through history, Georges Rons did it in 1928-29, Rick van Steenbergen of Belgium in 56-57, Rick van Looy of Belgium in 60-61, and Gianni Bugno, as we saw at the top of our programme, in 1991 and 1992. And it looks to me as though the effort made by Kea Pucci has hurt him a little bit. He should recover because we go downhill now. They're the two leaders. 3 leaders. Sorensen's got back. Rolf Sorensen back at the tunt here. Now, I think Rolf will have to go early if he's going to try and win because clearly he lacks the strength up that climb. And there could be a major surprise here because Luc Leblanc climbed so well last lap. If he produces a climb like that, and they're not caught, of course, then he's going to ride to the title, and that would be a surprise. I don't think you'd have got too many takers for a French winner today amongst all these Italians. The Italians have played the cards reasonably well, but they seem to me to have banked on the winner coming from either Fondriest or Kea Pucci, and Fondriest has cracked. Luc Leblanc, having the sort of season one just only hopes for. Girotto won his first big stage race after 12 years of cycling this season. And Rolf Sorensen. And this is the chase group, and the roads now are wide open in front of them, but they will eventually see that long straight again. They'll see the riders up there. And David Cassani looking a little bit worried now about this. This is Piotr Ugramov. And Eric Breukink, Ugramov, of course, the strong man who came so strong in that last week of the Tour de France, rather, where he won 2 stages, almost won 3 straight. Sorensen not short of strength at all on these easier stages, but I think he's lacking it on the climb. Luc Leblanc trying now to confirm his great season, 6th in the Vuelta de España and also winner of the King of the Mountains there, 4th in the Tour de France and winner of a stage there. Finished, won a stage also of the Tour of Galicia. But he's having a marvellous year. Here's Kea Pucci. Now must start to ask himself the question, can he reach them? Same of Armstrong, but they're going to try. Konishev going away with them. Richard Virenque at the back of this chasing group of 4. Will not make any move at all now, but they're only just ahead. Look, there they are. Now surely that's a gap that Kea Pucci could close. On the climb, that is. A bit more difficult on the flat for him. Konishev wants to descend to those leaders if he can. Armstrong keeping an eye on the whereabouts of the little Italian. Now, they're going to see them for a little way down this road. This is their chance, maybe, to get across. It's really difficult to stay away just here. There's nobody else descending down that hill. There are going to be 7 riders together if they can make this gap, and if they do, there'll be nobody else in this championship. It's been an extremely good race. It came alive around lap number 12 and 13. And they've been going at it ever since. And the best have survived under these really torrid conditions. Well, Kea Pucci trying to get across, and yet I don't know whether he's got mixed feelings about the fact that Girotto is in there. He's making Konishev do the chasing. He would prefer to see Lance Armstrong do the chasing, because the Italians and the French have got 2 men up there, and one of them should win it, but Sorensen looks suspect. And I think that's why it's soft pedaled through Kea Pucci. He's making Lance Armstrong do the pace now. So Armstrong, the defending champion of the world and flying the USA flag with pride today. And Sorensen wants more help from Girotto. But he can't be looking forward. I think, in fact, Leblanc indicated to Sorensen that there was a group coming. Girotto knows it now. There's Konishev taking the wheel of Armstrong. The Italian and the French rider are not interested in the chase down now. They're making the other 2 do it. That's the game. That's the sport. But you know, if these 2 take across Kea Pucci, it might be curtains on the last climb. What a great pursuit this is now. Dmitry Konishev trying to reach the 3 leaders along with Lance Armstrong with very little help from Virenque and Kea Pucci. Virenque just hangs off the back. Kea Pucci rides closer to Armstrong but doesn't assist. Armstrong left to go through. His American team fought hard in the opening half of the race to keep him in a position to springboard into a breakaway. The vast majority of that team has now retired, but they did their job. Armstrong, it's all down to him, this great talent from the Motorola squad. Yet to show us he can ride a great Tour de France, but you never know one day. He's so young and he's done so much so soon. Well, they mustn't lose the impetus now, and in fact, it looks as though Rolf Sorensen has sensed it. Sorensen has gone. Now he needs to do this because his legs turn to putty on the climb. He must have a good gap, and I reckon he needs about 20 seconds when he hits that climb if he's going to hold off these 2. Leblanc reacts a little bit. I think Girotto is also feeling very, very tired now. So this attack could almost have been predicted by Sorensen. It's come on the downhill, and it's over almost as quickly. And Leblanc has closed the gap. Leblanc is looking so good now. And Girotto is going to have a go. Moves to the other side of the road and steps up the pace again to see if they can get rid of Sorensen at this moment. But Leblanc seems to show no real interest in pushing home this move. It is almost as if he's just waiting for that climb to come. He shot a bit on the previous lap as he went up there. He took 3 seconds out of them. Only Girotto could hang on. But it's not the finish for Girotto. He's been on the move all day today for the Italians. Armstrong now leading the chase for. They're still not quite there. The sun directly overhead now. Konishev goes through. Kipucci. And the breakaway, you see Armstrong in fact has gone back to say to Richard Virenque, get through and do some work, Richard. And Virenque not having any of it. He's left the gap and Armstrong, quite annoyed by that, has attacked. Armstrong decided he's not going to carry Kipucci and Virenque up to the leaders and then lose this world title. He's gone on his own. This is a great move. Well, Armstrong, in just really two years as a pro, more or less, has settled right in at the top echelon. He's now dictating tactics. He's learned so much in his second season with Motorola. It's going to force Virenque to chase, but can he chase with Leblanc up there? Well, it's all over. They brought him back. They've jumped on him, but they're right on the leaders anyway. That gap has closed down dramatically. And so we're going to have 7 riders, and it's going to come in the last few kilometres of the race, and it's going to be anybody's race from these 7. What a great championship now. Girotto looks back. They all look back. They see who's come up. The defending world champion Armstrong is first to reach them. He grabs the wheel of Sorensen. Richard Virenque. So now Festina have 2 riders here. And so do France, of course. 2 from Italy, 1 from Denmark, 1 from America, 1 from Russia. Now these tactics should prove interesting. Kipucci is going to wait to the climb for sure. I would suspect so is Luc Leblanc. But people like Armstrong, Sorensen, Girotto, they've got to go early. They've just got to go early. I don't think Lance Armstrong can cope with those climbers over the last couple of kilometres today. It's just too steep in the final kilometre, and he won't recover in time over the top. I'm sure he would know that. Here comes the first testing attack, and it's come from Claudio Kipucci straight away. I think it's Virenque who's chasing him. Right at the bottom of the 4-kilometre slog to the line, Kipucci decided to finish off as many as he can straight away. But the acceleration has stopped. So the Russian danger man moved across to catch up with Kipucci. Richard Virenque joins them. Girotto is there. Attack over. Attack indeed over. Dmitry Konishev, the man of a world championship, who's so often been at odds with the teams he's ridden for. He left TVM to join the Italian Jolly team. And now we've got Dmitry Konishev setting the pace with Claudio Kipucci. I'm not sure whether Claudio wants to be actually in the lead now he's been caught, because if he does, he's going to have to accelerate from the front again. He seems to have recovered all his old form after dropping out of the Tour de France with a high temperature. He didn't start, in fact, in the mountains after the stage to Les Ardidens, where he lost so much time. Seven riders, and they are 7 survivors of a great race. Every one of them deserves his place in this lead group. There was no luck. Nobody got carried across on a tidal wave. They had to work and work hard to join this lead group today as individuals. Any one of them worthy of the title, without a shadow of a doubt. Kipucci, Konishev, Virenque, Armstrong. They're the 4 at the front. Nervous moments now. They're all tired, but 4 of them are climbers. Kipucci, Virenque, Leblanc, and in fact Sorensen knows he's got to go and go soon. He's the one that had to make the move. Who's going to counter him? Rolf Sorensen has gone for gold, and he's gone with about 2 kilometres to go. Nobody countered the move. Kipucci saw him coming, saw him going, and didn't react. Neither did anybody else. He went as Kipucci looked across, but Claudio did nothing about it. He was waiting for somebody else to counter the move. And Rolf Sorensen forced to go on the climb, which he's come to dislike these last couple of times, but he's got a gap, and he might profit from the cat and mouse tactics of the others in that chase. Rolf Sorensen trying to make good a season which so far has been unkind to him. He broke his wrist in the 4 days of De Panne, which is a race in Belgium right at the start of the season. Since then he's won a stage of the Tour de France. And he's been searching for his form. He still hopes he can pick up a classic before the end of the season, as he so often has done before. And he's got the gap. There you can actually see the long climb now, which takes us up to the finishing line. This is called the Colle della Vittoria, which means the climb to victory. And I'm wondering if it was named because of the World Championships, because we also have the Avenue of the Victorious when they get over the top. So a fabulous ride by Rolf Sorensen, who is a great example to any young cyclist here, showing you that you never give up, even when you think you've had it enough and you've been caught many times. Have another go, because you never know, it can be the right move. And Sorensen, like everybody, has suffered and suffered hard today, but now he's gone yet again despite all of that, and there's just a chance now he's done it. Kiepucci and Konishev. Kiepucci forced to keep the tempo high, but he doesn't want to give it too high. He doesn't want to lead all of these riders to the line either. There's Armstrong. They're gambling now. They can cope with Sorensen, and it's going to be a difficult gamble. Armstrong, mouth open, but still holds a very good position. He doesn't look like a tired man to me. And this is the hard-working Rolf Sorensen. I can imagine how Father Jens is feeling right now, no doubt watching him up on the finishing line on television. The gap is still there, but the counter-attack is started. There is a counter-attack coming away from that field. I think it's... No, it's not. It's Luc Leblanc. Leblanc and Massimo Girotto have gone. And somehow they've jumped around Kiepucci and they've gone straight by Sorensen in no time at all. Sorensen, his rhythm has stopped almost immediately as Leblanc now turns around and looks at Massimo Girotto. And Girotto, who has followed or been in every move today, indeed a man worthy of a world title, even if it would be a surprise. But Luc Leblanc has the climbing legs, surely. He went up this climb with Girotto last time and he hurt Girotto. And it might well be he'll try and do the same again now. He's going to have to take him from the front because there's nobody going to help him. And slowly but surely, Rolf Sorensen is losing ground. But to look at this, there's a gap. But in fact, Leblanc turned the power off there. And he wants Girotto to come through. But I don't think that is possible for actually Luc. I think Massimo, if he comes to it, will be right on the finishing line. All the cheers will be for Girotto, the blue of Italy. Well, the French have had a marvellous, marvellous race today. De Las Cuevas, Madouas, Stéphane Hulot, Richard Virenque, and now Luc Leblanc. And Leblanc is going to go for the attack a long way down the slope here. Girotto's mouth is wide open, but the big man, can he hold on? There's the help from the Italian Tifosi. But in fact, the water didn't mean a thing. If anything, it's turned him off, because Girotto has given up. And now look at this. Luc Leblanc is going to deliver the surprise of these championships. He is riding away to victory and gold medal in the world title. The gap is there. And Luc Leblanc surely never believed this. A rider who turned professional at 20 years of age. And this, the former champion of France back in 1992 when he finished 8th in the world title that year. And that's his best ever finish in these World Championships. But now I think it's going to be a gold medal. Massimo Girotto has lost his rhythm completely. He'll be lucky to get silver, I think. But there's no doubt about this young man who turned pro in '87 for Toshiba, a sponsor no longer in the sport. And all he had to show for that was a small victory in a stage of the Tour de la Vienne, which was an open amateur race. And he finished second in the national championship that year. He comes from the Limousin region of France, doesn't live there now. And he's going to win the world title. Well, what a climax this is for French cycling this year. We've had the renaissance since 1990 of the Italians, but this year people are going to talk about the renaissance of France. And look at this down below. Girotto is being reeled in. Armstrong has been dropped because this is Richard Virenque and Claudio Kiepucci, who have joined
and nobody behind them at all. So Kea Pucci and Virenque have got clear, and unfortunately Virenque handicapped again by the attack of Luc Leblanc, and to a lesser degree Kea Pucci handicapped by the attack of Girotto. But look at the happiness now on the balding head of Luc Leblanc of France. They can't catch him now, he's just over the top of the climb, and he'll just ride to the line just like Lance Armstrong did a year ago and salute the crowd. It has to be a surprise, but don't anybody ever say it wasn't deserved, because it most certainly was. This was an excellent victory for Luc Leblanc. He took a win in the stage of the Tour de France. He finished high in the Tour de France this year, but the victory in the world title will be the icing on the cake. And in second place, the sprint going to Claudio Chiappucci on the line from Richard Virenque. So France first and third, Italy second and fourth. And then comes Dmitry Konishev in fifth place. And somewhere down there too has got to be Lance Armstrong, Rolf Sørensen also. And in fact, there's Sørensen, he gets sixth. And Lance Armstrong coming home in seventh. And in fact, last of the breakaway of seven. But nonetheless, an excellent defence of the World Championship, even if it wasn't successful. Well, the French are going to celebrate tonight. This has been a brilliant ride by Luc Leblanc, and what a year for him. The Festina rider takes the victory, and Festina also get the bronze medal with Richard Virenque. I don't think Luc Leblanc cares who he kisses right now. Anybody near to him. Superb performance. Absolutely superb. Fourth overall in the Tour de France, and now the world champion. Sixth in the Tour of Spain this year. He's going to sit back this winter and look at these videos and just remember this marvellous season of 1994. He'll have some story to tell today. He was in the action all day when it mattered. And there's his victory. His thanks to the skies. And the crowd in Italy a little bit subdued. They like an Italian winner. They're not too happy with anybody else, least of all a Frenchman. But the French don't care. They took the Italians on at their own game here, and they beat them. And Luc Leblanc has supplied the gold medal. And this is the sprint for second place, and Claudio Chiappucci, the man who never can quite win. If only he could convert some of his second places in all of the big races throughout the world, then he really would be among the superstars. Another silver medal for Claudio Chiappucci, ahead of Richard Virenque and a very courageous Massimo Girotto, finally robbed of a medal in fourth place, 11 seconds back in that group. Dmitry Konishev and Rolf Sørensen. Let's not forget the defending champion Lance Armstrong of America taking seventh. And on the podium, and in fact, Chiappucci saying to Luc Leblanc, hold your medal up and let my crowd see it. A gold medal for France, a bronze medal for France, and Claudio Chiappucci, as he so often does, spoils the party by getting in there in the middle. But all in all, a great World Championship, and one to remember. I'm Phil Liggett saying goodbye.